Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Courage to Love Without Limits, confronting a global crisis with the infinite power of an open heart. I'm Craig Hamilton, and I'm delighted to be welcoming you to what is my second Facebook Live video broadcast, and in fact, my second in a week. Many of you know and probably attended the event that I did this past Sunday called Spiritual Survival Skills for a World in Chaos. I keep wanting to say crisis. It's both, right? Crisis is leading to a lot of chaos. So I first just want to say thank you for taking time to come and be part of this global gathering. I know this is a time that we're all finding stressful. Some of us are finding it incredibly stressful. We're all navigating different challenges, and a lot of us are navigating the same challenges. So I think we're all starting to realize that we're all in something together that is going to both challenge us personally, but challenge us collectively and really, hopefully, call out the best in us. Hopefully call humanity to rise up in the face of the threat that is circling the globe and reveal and express what is really the best part of who we are, which is the part of us that cares, the part of us that's able to keep things in perspective, that is able to stay centered and grounded in a deeper, wiser, more loving dimension of who and what we are. And I think as we look around the world, we see so many examples of that right now. Just everywhere we see people stretching to help. And at the same time, I know we're all feeling just personally challenged by what's on our plate, let alone the need to give. So I'm here to share with you some what I really tonight. I want to share with you a spiritual perspective and a particular approach and kind of set of tools, if you will. I mean, it's as I get through into this, you'll see why I'm finding it a little hard to call it a set of tools, because it's going to be actually a very deep journey into what might be the most profound mystery of spiritual awakening. And I've been reflecting a lot on what's going on, and I just felt that now is the time to bring forth the teaching that I'm going to give here and invite all of us to contemplate it together, to reflect on it, and to hopefully step up into what is a very simple, subtle shift in our orientation to life that can really revolutionize everything about how our life unfolds from this moment forward. I just want to take a moment for all of us who are tuning in here, and this includes any of you who are tuning in at a later time, to just take a moment to breathe and relax together and settle into the tremendous field of collective support, camaraderie, sisterhood, and brotherhood that is here. This event is being watched from all around the globe by people who feel the call to become a fuller, greater, more profound expression of love, to meet life with an ever more open heart. That's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful aspiration that brought you here to an event focused on this topic. So just realize for a moment, everyone who's here resonates with that, wants that. And I just want to invite us to really feel, if you can, feel into the collective field of consciousness, of care, the current of love that's already flowing through this moment. Allow yourself to relax into that current. That beautiful flow that is here right now, swirling between us, unconstrained by time and space. It's always here. But bringing our attention to it can intensify it for all of us. Just let yourself soften into it a little bit more. And as you do, I want to say a few words about how I would encourage you to listen to this event. Because we can listen in different ways. Often when we approach an educational event like this one, a workshop, we come ready to receive more knowledge, to learn more things, to gather more information that we can remember with our mind and hopefully apply at another time when we really need it. And that's part of what this event is. I don't want to shut down your kind of intellectual, conceptual interest in what I'm going to share. I think there are some, intriguing, paradigm shifting concepts that we're going to talk about that will fit that. But there's another way to listen to spiritual teachings. And that is to listen. Well, it's fitting for our topic today, to listen from the heart. And by heart, I don't mean a place in the center of your chest here. We're speaking metaphorically about the spiritual heart, which really is just pointing to the part of you that is able to attune to spiritual depth. It's the part of you that is able to feel deeply into other people, into situations, into your own deepest self and being. And that ultimately is the part of us that is able to discern enlightened action, how to live. It's a part of us that's able to find the way, discern the way in a spiritual sense. So if you don't know where to find that, that's okay. Let's just see if you can also listen from a place of innocence and receptivity. From a place of having no idea and not needing to have any idea. That's one of the spiritual survival skills we covered on Sunday. Being comfortable in the unknown so that we might be open to a greater source of wisdom. So let's put that skill into practice here. And you don't need any more training in it than what I just said now. So since this is an event about love, I just want to say briefly here at the beginning a few words about what I mean by love, because love is a word with a lot of different connotations. It's a word we use in many different contexts to mean different things. So the love without limits, the infinite love that we're going to be exploring here, specifically refers to love that takes the form of care. Right? Because we can have romantic love, which is really attraction, feeling attracted. We can have, deep kind of love with our mate and our family, which is kind of a profound bond, attachment. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. We're bonded. We have healthy attachments, things we really hold dear. We use love that way. Many other ways. But the love specifically that I'm pointing to is our capacity to care deeply. And not just for someone else and their welfare, although it includes that, but it's the capacity to care for the spiritual elevation of humanity, of this cosmos, of this planet, of consciousness. It's our capacity to care for what's most important. And I mean that in a kind of absolute ultimate sense of what's most important, ultimate reality, spiritual awakening, sublime consciousness being expressed by humans and being manifest between us. I mean it in that ultimate sense. But I also just mean the ability to care for what's most important in any situation, to put first things first for real, to have our priorities aligned with what really matters moment to moment. And that changes moment to moment. So there's no prescription, right? But this extraordinary capacity we have to align ourselves with matters of ultimate significance and devote our lives to expressing a life of profound significance, of extraordinary care, great risk for all the right reasons, profound wisdom, innovation, creativity to help uplift this whole event that we're a part of. Without putting too tight a boundary around it, that's the kind of love that I'm speaking about, and that we'll be exploring how to surrender ourselves to it, how to become fully conscious of it, ultimately how to let it flow through us so freely that it finally becomes our only home in this universe. So why am I here to speak about love and about meeting this challenge we're facing with an open heart? So I just want to speak a little bit about the context that inspired me to do this, because this all really opened up for me yesterday morning. I wasn't necessarily planning to do another Facebook Live gathering so soon, but I just woke up in the morning and I just had this very strong sense that this is needed right now. It's something a lot of us really could benefit from reflecting on and connecting with. And the reason is that I know many of us right now are experiencing a particular kind of challenge. I mean, let's face it, human beings are experiencing a lot of different kinds of challenges right now. True? Some people are experiencing economic hardships, job loss, having to shutter their small business and not knowing what to do moving forward. So there's a lot of economic disruption. Some of us are experiencing fear for our own health, the health of other people. And even for those of us who are not, feeling a big economic challenge are not overly concerned about health issues, maybe because of where we live or because we don't have any vulnerable parties in our life, or we're not a vulnerable party. Who knows? But in spite of that, there's just this disruption to our lives. I mean, I just want to just take a little poll. How many of you are finding it very stressful and overwhelming now figuring out how to deal with food? Right? I mean, at least for those of us in certain areas, it's become this huge thing. Okay, I've got to go get groceries. Do I wear a mask, gloves, a full body protective suit? Once I get the groceries, where do I put them? How do I clean them? Someone else might have coughed on my head of lettuce that I just bought. How do I, right? It's a kind of overwhelming thing. In fact, there's an excellent video going around the internet right now that we watched last night. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's by a doctor really taking you step by step through how to sanitize your groceries so you don't get the virus from them. Another example of someone helping and stepping up just to be generous and help right now. So many of those. But anyway, we're all, so whether we're profoundly impacted or just a little bit impacted, this is proving to be a very disruptive time. And so many of us now are personally feeling very stretched, right? We're feeling like, wow, I'm stuck at home now and I've got my whole family at home and I'm trying to also work from home and, it's kind of putting pressure on relationships. It's putting pressure on families. It's just putting pressure on us as individuals. Some of us, it's loneliness. We're suddenly all alone and we're not supposed to spend time with anybody. And how do we weather that? So there's all this stress going on. And at the same time, when we look around us, and for a lot of us, we don't have to look very far, just within our own family or our circle of friends, certainly within our community. And we see that there are so many people who need help. There is such a need right now. If you watch the news for a little while or read it for a little while, you just start feeling, oh my God, those people are really in trouble. There's all these, medical workers who don't have protection. And, they might get sick and they're sacrificing. How could I help that situation? And, oh my goodness, there's people in my community who just lost all their income. How could I help them? And shop owners who I know in my area who had to close their shop, and how's their income going to go? And what are they going to do? And vulnerable people who are really at risk of dying if they get the virus. How can I help them get food? Because they shouldn't leave their house. And people in our immediate circle and family members who are really, we have a friend maybe who's really stressed out because they're at home with their whole family in a small apartment now and just all day long, and the pressure's like hitting the boiling point. And how can we help them? And so we just look around right now. And if we have the open heart to even look around and we feel, oh my, there's so much help needed. How can I help? And I would say, unless you're someone who has lived through like a major natural disaster, like a catastrophic weather event, or maybe if you were in New York when 9/11 happened and the towers fell, I would say some of us who've lived through major disaster events personally might have experience with the kind of challenge that we're feeling here, where in a sense you personally already feel stretched emotionally, challenged, your time, the disruption of your life. And yet there's clearly such an enormous need all around you. And, how do you navigate that? But for a lot of us, it's the first time we have been in this situation. It's the first time I've been in this situation where I was just in a world that needs so much. And, and I have to say, fortunately, my life is not that disrupted. I work from home already. My company of about 30 staff all work from their homes. So everyone's able to carry on with work. We're hoping that our business won't be too impacted because we serve people virtually. We do run educational, transformational programs virtually. For those of you who don't know me, I teach meditation and spiritual awakening courses online. And I've been doing that for a decade. And our organization, my wife does similar work, and our organization's built around that. So we're not facing economic disruption. We're stuck at home. We feel very disrupted in lots of ways, but it's nothing compared to what so many people are feeling. So but my point is just, it's the first time for us, most of us, and hopefully it's the last time, because this is really an incomprehensible historical event that's happening that none of us could have anticipated. So, to come to the heart of my topic here and why I'm doing this. So, there's a conundrum that presents itself right in our own heart, which is the sort of conventional way of thinking about what it means to be in a position to help someone else is that you can really only help someone else when you are okay. Like, you can only get someone out of the quicksand if you're not in the quicksand, right? You can only help someone, along, let's say, who you're on a hike and somebody breaks their leg. You can only help them if you don't have a broken leg. You need a strong person to get an injured or weak person out of harm's way. So, and we can take that, on a lot of different levels, but even just simply even from a sense of being emotionally resourced, or really to show up and really be present for another person, to really give our energy and attention to someone else. Don't we tend to fundamentally believe we can only do that if we're feeling okay, well rested, not too stressed, not personally challenged? So what I'm pointing to is that and again, I know a lot of us know something more than this. So I want to make it clear that I'm not here this evening to tell you something you don't know. I'm here to highlight an aspect of your experience, of our experience, that it's easy to overlook, to undervalue, to forget, and to not truly understand the significance of it, and not apply it when it's most important. So simply put, when we are personally stretched, personally challenged, it feels like we don't have much to give. And I'm hearing this a lot right now. How do I be of service? How do I help? How do I give to all the others who need so much help right now? How do I put my attention there when I'm just kind of barely keeping it together myself and not sure how I'm going to weather this storm financially, from a health perspective, socially, psychologically, emotionally? How I'm just trying to stay sane, grounded, and centered, let alone think about what am I going to be able to, do to help us all, help humanity get through this crisis and all the challenges. So that seems like a real problem. It seems like a paradox, or a somewhat unsolvable dilemma. So I just want to invite you for a moment to just sense into where you are in that dilemma. To what degree is what I just shared true for you, or where are you feeling that way? Some of you might, and go ahead and post just so we can sense from the community where we're at with this. Some of you are feeling like, yeah, that's totally my experience, or, not so much, because, I'm not feeling that disrupted, or what. Just let us know, use the comment feature to share. So this feels like a real dilemma. It is, to some degree, a real challenge. It's a real thing. So I'm not here to tell you that's not real. But what I want to underline for all of us, what I want to bring our attention to, is that it's not the whole truth. There is another fundamental truth about how life works and about our humanity, about this mysterious event called life that we're all participating in. So we've all heard stories about how human beings, when they suddenly find themselves in extreme circumstances where another, sorry, I'm emotional, talking about love in the heart. I guess it's to be expected. We have all heard these stories about people who, when they suddenly came upon another person who was in a desperate situation, they found that they had access to abilities that they previously never, that they, in any ordinary circumstance, never would have been there. There's the classic story, and there are many documented cases of this, where like a child got stuck under the wheel of a car, or in a car wreck, and there was the weight of the vehicle on the person, and a mother or someone else was able to actually lift the weight of the vehicle off their legs so they could get out. Or we hear stories of heroism, where and otherwise, people will say, I'm actually, a very timid person. I don't have a lot of courage. I don't have a lot of strength. But there was someone in flood waters, stuck in their car, and this seemingly timid, not athletic, not a remarkable person crawled out on a branch and waded through the floodwaters and got, their arm to that person and rescued them so they didn't get swept away. Or even just in our own lives, leaving heroism aside, but we've all had experiences of suddenly finding capacities coming forth only when they were needed. Like, some of us may, we don't feel like we're a very empathic, compassionate person until somebody comes to us broken down, in tears, genuinely hurting. And then suddenly this compassionate, empathic ability to soothe and care and nurture comes forth out of a person who nobody would have ever said had a nurturing bone in their body. Where did it come from? It came from the need of the moment. Or you may have had an experience where you're not a particularly creative person, you're not a great problem solver, you tend to get stuck in complexities or limiting ideas, and that's just not your strength. But then there was some real time pressured problem that came up in your life. Maybe you were traveling and suddenly something got, your money got stolen, or someone else's, something got stolen, and you were really something really needed a response, and suddenly you found this creative, clear, insightful person almost stepping forth inside you. It's like another person showed up to meet the challenge with capacities you didn't know you had, and you don't really know where they came from. So what I'm here to speak about today is that the same thing that I just described is true of love. You know, we often think of love as something that we feel and that we can, you know, tune into, feel love. You know, if we're a spiritual practitioner, we, you know, kind of want to sense into the heart, maybe feel divine love or unconditional love, and we kind of tune into it. And the more, and we kind of think the more I feel it, the more I'll be able to express it. I could be very loving if I felt very loving today. If the feelings of love are there, then I can express them. But that's not really how love works. The way love flows is that when we choose to step into a place that only love can fill, when we choose to step forward in a way that only love can meet that demand, then love shows up from somewhere that we have no idea about, somewhere we cannot control, somewhere we don't create. And this is where we transition into really a conversation about spiritual awakening. So I teach a way of approaching spiritual practice that I call the practice of direct awakening. It's rooted in the recognition that spiritual awakening is really the discovery of something that already exists fully formed within us. Spiritual awakening is the discovery of an already enlightened, already luminous essence that has always been here and is always here in every moment. And that this extraordinary essential nature, it's often called our true nature or our natural state, some of the Eastern traditions, that this essential, this awakened consciousness that's always already here, already contains most of the extraordinary capacities that we human beings are striving to manifest. It already has access to a kind of extraordinary intuitive wisdom. It is already naturally creative and innovative. It is already fluid and dynamic and flexible and adaptive to situations. And it is already overflowing with infinite love and care. That's who we are. That's the natural expression of a human being. That the fundamental premise really of spiritual awakening period is that human beings we are these remarkable creatures with these extraordinary capacities, with really the capacity to be a kind of super conscious, enlightened, divinized being. And that's the natural expression. That's the natural expression of what we might call an optimized human being, a human being who has removed all the obstacles to that naturalness, that fluidity. So you see what I'm getting at in terms of love? Love is our natural state. Being loving is our natural state. Being filled with love, overflowing with love, is the most natural way of being human. And I just want to invite you to reflect for a moment. Aren't those the moments that we feel the most alive and that we feel the most right, like the most in line with the kind of spiritual and moral axis of the cosmos? The moments when we are freely giving, freely caring, freely loving, without self-consciousness, without concern for how we'll be seen, without concern for whether we'll still have enough for ourselves if we let love sweep us away and we let ourselves express that love fully and unconditionally. Now, I know what some of us are thinking, and it's a fair thought. Some of us right now are thinking, oh man, when you're talking about a kind of just giving all the time, caring all the time, and it feels like it's this kind of outward focused life that feels exhausting. And I know there are many of us here who probably have the experience that, here's how it goes. He said, you know what, Craig, I've been giving to other people my whole life. Often, and please forgive me invoking gender, but often this comes from women, right? Because women in our society up until now, and really in human societies up until now, largely have been expected to be the ones who care for everyone else, the ones who love, who nurture, who hold society together, hold the family together, take care of everyone else's needs, and don't worry about their own needs. That has been an expectation. It's a role that women in ways consciously, unconsciously are still expected to fill. So we can acknowledge that. And so if you've, those of you who feel like, hey, I just finally am at a place in my life, hey, Craig, I'm an empty nester. I spent the last, 30, years looking after my other people. And now I'm finally putting some attention on me and my own self-care and my own adventure of life and my own self-expression and my own fulfillment and my own goals. And now you're just pointing me back in that old slot. Care, care, care. Give, give, give. Forget about me. I've had tens of thousands of people go through my courses, and a lot of them have been women. So we've had these conversations in great detail over many years, and so I fully understand and empathize with that, and that people will say, hey, this whole selflessness thing in spirituality is a bit of a problem for someone who's already lived a very selfless life and is trying to find a way to get on, get themselves included in the picture. So I want to reassure you, I am not suggesting that. I am not talking about going back to a mode where you're tirelessly caring for everyone else at the expense of yourself. And I want to invite you to just tune into the deeper truth of this. If love really is the nature of the universe, if it really is woven into the very fabric of the cosmos, really is the essential energy coursing through this whole event, if it's really the essential nature and essence of our fullest humanity, is this kind of super love that I'm talking about, this limitless love, don't we all think that that love would care about us too? If it's love with a capital L, you can be sure that it is not asking you to forget about your own needs and suppress your own needs in order to preference some other person's needs. It's not, it doesn't work that way. That is the old paradigm, and that is definitely not what this is pointing to. But for any of you who thought it sounded kind of exhausting to be stepping into a life of limitless loving or infinite love, I think it only seems that way if we imagine ourselves to be the source of love or the owners of love. So if we, and again, that's another way we tend to think about love. We think about, okay, if you think about care, love as care, which is what I'm speaking about, where in our conventional way of relating to it, where do we think it comes from? From within us, right? I care. I care for you. I care for you. I care for this situation. I care that things go well. I am the source of the care. I'm the generator of the care. I'm the one who's loving. And if we're looking at it that way, that does feel like a finite resource. I will concur that love in that sense is not infinite. If it's coming from us, if we're having to generate it, if we have a limited amount. And we, many of us have experienced getting burnt, caregiver burnout. It's a common thing. People who spend their life, their careers, their work lives caring for others can get very exhausted because the way we, in a pre-enlightened paradigm, a pre-awakened consciousness. And I'm saying pre, not un, because I want us all to assume that our life flows into enlightened consciousness, that is where our life is going, and soon. So in pre-awakened consciousness prior to awakening to our true nature, which is infinite love, in that context, it is a limited resource. And we do have to be careful that we don't burn out, that we don't overgive. But in spiritual awakening, that paradigm turns upside down. It's turned completely on its head. Because in spiritual awakening, we begin to realize that we're not the source of love. We're not the owners of love. Love isn't something we have and that we give and that we express, that we create. It's not something we have to find in ourselves, feel in ourselves, and then be able to give to someone else because now we have it. Love is not something that you ever have. So, and then can give. That is just not how it works at all. See, and even in spiritual contexts, we often kind of think of like spiritual love, ultimate love, divine love, infinite love, as something that we as an individual can receive. How many of us have prayed maybe in some way, or said some, kind of wished or hoped or prayed for, fill me up with love, source of all that is, greater power, however we conceive of it, celestial Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May I be a vessel that you can fill up with love, like we're a big bowl or a vase, a vessel, an urn that love can flow into and fill up. And then once it fills me up, then I can go out and pour love onto the world because I'm full of it. I'm full of love. So now I can go and give it out. But that's not how it works either. It doesn't work that way at all. The way that the only way we can truly, consistently, perpetually experience and express the infinite love that is our true nature is when we realize that we're not a vessel to contain it and then distribute it, that we are a conduit through which love can flow. We're a pipeline or a doorway or gateway. And when we can open our heart and allow and get out of the way, stop clogging up the pipeline, then love cannot help but flow through us infinitely for the rest of our days without obstruction, because love is the essence of this cosmos. It is your essence. It's the essence of everything. It is shot through every speck of existence. It is because it's the greatest power and force in the universe. The moment we get out of the way, it's sort of like floodgates burst. Floodgates get blown open. The dam bursts, and this love starts to flow, and and then mysteriously, what happens in our experience? We now have an experience of love all the time in some way. Not because we're filled up with it and can hold on to it and have it. We only get to really have the experience of being love, of knowing love consistently when it's flowing through us and where is it flowing to? Everyone and everything else. So the call of love is a call to be a giver, but on a completely different order than we've ever conceived. It's a call to let go of every limiting idea and belief that stands in the way of this sacred, profound essence streaming through us, touching everyone around us, uplifting them, maybe challenging them, maybe nurturing them, maybe calling them to their greatness with ferocity. It takes all kinds of forms. Sometimes our images of love are a bit one-dimensional or two-dimensional. Again, that we have our kind of favorite flavor of love, kind of the nurturing motherly love or the sweet, romantic love or whatever. But when we're talking about love, really, we're talking about the force of evolution itself. We're talking about the force of creativity. the force of manifestation and expression. It's the creative driver of our forward progress toward higher and higher orders of complexity, of harmony, of unity. Don't we all feel a drive toward unity? I mean, thank goodness that is a big part of the human experience. You know, it hurts when there's separation. It hurts when things are divided. Look at how polarized our world is politically right now in so many countries. Not every country, but so many countries. Certainly my country, the United States. You know, where there's almost like this idea that there's these two sides and they kind of hate each other. You know, those. You know, I'm not going to get into politics here, but you know, it feels bad to feel like, oh man, why are we so divided? How could we be so divided? We're one humanity. That part of us, by the way, that feels the pain of division. And that's another thing I mean by the heart, the spiritual heart, because the spiritual heart wants wholeness. The spiritual heart knows wholeness inwardly. It knows the truth of wholeness, and it wants that wholeness expressed outwardly. And this, by the way, is another characteristic of the love that I'm pointing to. Because this infinite love, from a certain point of view, is actually kind of selfish. What does infinite love really want? More love. Love wants to see and feel and know itself being expressed by more and more conduits, more and more human beings willing to get out of the way so that love can be expressed freely. And you can probably know this in your own experience if you've experienced anything touching on the kind of love I'm talking about. When you feel activated by it, nothing stirs your soul more, nothing uplifts you more than seeing love expressed, seeing human beings expressing the best, most noble, most virtuous parts of themselves. You know, it's probably about 10 or 12 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago, and by now, that a new emotion was named and kind of cataloged by the social scientists. And they called that new emotion elevation, the feeling of elevation. And what they're referring to, and hopefully you know this this feeling in your own experience. You know how there's a particular feeling we get when we see someone else or we read a story about someone else doing something selfless for a greater good. You know, that it's a certain, and they ignore, you know, the social scientists who study all this, like, you know, it's a unique feeling that you only feel when you're touched by kind of seeing someone's heroism. You know, sometimes you feel this very emotional thing when you read a story or see a piece on TV about someone who did a heroic, selfless thing for another, or for an animal, or, you know, for other human beings, or for their village or whatever. We feel uplifted, we feel elevated. Who is feeling the elevation? I would say that is another quality of what I mean by the heart, the spiritual heart. It's the one that goes, oh, someone's giving themselves to love. Someone's taking a stand for love. Someone's allowing this love to move them out of their comfort zone and into a profound response. And what happens to us when we experience elevation? It makes us, and this has also been studied, it makes us want to do something elevating. Not because we want to make someone else feel that way, it pulls it out of us. It's like someone else living a life inspired by love. it's contagious, and it inspires love from us. It inspires that same generosity of spirit, that same impulse toward goodness, that same desire to uplift and serve and elevate. So, how do we do it? How do we become a conduit? How do we get out of the way so it can freely flow? The practice component of this it's interesting. It's kind of unique because unlike some of the spiritual survival skills I shared in the previous Facebook Live last weekend, this isn't one that you can't sort of, because love isn't a feeling and it's not something you get and then, acquire and hold on to. It's not going to be beneficial to try to evoke it, maybe in any way other than I already have. I mean, I hope that so far, for many of us, it has been evoked. Maybe take a moment and share in the comment thread just, did you feel anything as I've tried to, in my own way, allow love to flow through what I'm saying and doing here and touch you? Has any love been felt, tasted, touched, subtly or powerfully? Any heart-opening encounters? Just if you will, if you take the risk. Because see, now me inviting you to share, what am I inviting you to? I'm inviting you to take a stand for love, to acknowledge what's moving inside you, the current of love. And when you express it in writing or in speech or in action, it touches others. They're infected by it. They're uplifted by it. So any of you who feel so moved, just share the love. Share the love. Make a comment. What's opening up? So I'm talking about the practice component of this and how, I'm not going to give you a practice and say, okay, sit down, tune into love, try to feel love so that then you can go express love. Because that's the point. It doesn't work that way. We can't be looking for it. So that here's the miraculous thing. It really can only flow when we're not looking. It comes from somewhere that your mind can't see. It flows in a way that your ego mind cannot know beforehand. You can't see it coming. You can't go, oh, there's love. Oh yeah, I'm starting to feel it. Okay, good. Yeah, now I can open the floodgates because it's here. That's the vessel metaphor. It's filled me up, so now I can give it out. I got it, so now I can give it. So it requires a tremendous leap of trust, which is why I called this the courage to love without limits, because courage and trust are very interrelated. They're kind of two sides of a coin. I almost called it the trust to love without limits, but I thought it might be a little obscure to understand what I meant. But courage, a little clearer. But courage, trust. So if you think about it, something either takes courage or it takes trust. If you have trust, you don't need courage. If you have courage, maybe you don't need trust. If I had to pick one, I'd pick trust, probably, but because it's more surrendered, it's more vulnerable. And living a life of love, living a love without limits is if it's anything, it's about being vulnerable to something. It's about being utterly vulnerable to a mystery that although we can't see it and know it with our mind, we can open to it with our spiritual heart. We can allow ourselves to be receptive, to be someone who can be moved by the infinite, be touched by grace, really be surrendered enough that something outside of conscious awareness can be allowed to slip through our defenses. So that doesn't mean there's nothing we can do. It just means it's a little counterinstinctual to how we might tend to think about it. So one of the things we can do, and we can do it as a daily practice, is we can meditate. And I'm going to lead us in a brief meditation. And then I'm also going to talk, after we meditate, I'm going to talk about what the doing of this looks like in life. But and by the way, the meditation I'm going to lead here is kind of an aggregation of many of the meditations we did in the Spiritual Survival Skills Workshop, where I taught each of these in a little more depth. This, I'm just going to kind of pull them all together into one, or at least many of them together into one, just to give you, again, we can't do everything here, but to give you a little taste of the kind of practice that can start to help you learn how to get out of the way. Because learning how to get out of the way of something greater, something beyond the mind, is a fundamental spiritual capacity. It's a fundamental spiritual practice that really opens the door to everything else. So I'm going to give us all a little 5-minute taste of that. So we're not going to focus on love, because love isn't something we can focus on. Not really. Not the love I'm talking about. It's beyond imagination, beyond conception. So I just want to invite you to just get into a relaxed meditation posture, whatever that means for you. It can really mean anything, because it's only a few minutes. Meditation posture is only important because of how it supports us to do more extended practice. You can do this, it's probably easiest with your eyes closed, but you can also, if you're a meditator who meditates eyes open, just allow your gaze to look down gently at the floor or the wall and have a soft gaze. So I first want to invite you to allow yourself to become utterly innocent in this moment. Innocent in the sense of humble, in the sense of not needing to know anything at all right now. Just relax your awareness, relax your consciousness, relax your mind's grip on reality, and allow yourself to simply be present with no need to know anything at all. No idea about anything. No idea what love is. No idea how to feel your heart. No need to have any idea about that right now. And as you rest in this innocent place of unknowing, allow yourself to let everything be exactly the way it is right now. Just to let your experience be. Let this moment be. Let yourself be as you are. Letting be means letting go. Of the need to be any particular way, to need to have any special experience, even of love. You're just letting the moment be. You're letting it happen however it does naturally. Simply let go of control. Don't try to control your experience in any way right now. You're just allowing this brief meditation to flow. You're letting your experience flow naturally from one moment to the next, and you're being just deeply at ease, deeply easeful. There's no problem anywhere. Nothing you need to do. Nothing you need to solve. Nobody you need to become. You're just allowing. Just allowing. And if in this brief meditation you notice something stirring within you or beginning to move and flow, any sense of depth or subtle or higher consciousness, anything stirring. Don't try to grasp onto it. Don't try to hold onto it or focus on it or amplify it, but just allow it to move through you. Allow it to flow like the current of a river, carrying you somewhere that your mind cannot go, but is your deepest home. I now want to invite you to just let go of the brief meditation. And letting go of it means letting it be, whatever it was, whatever it is. It's just a few minutes, a brief experiment. Maybe something opened up, maybe nothing opened up. I more wanted to just offer that as a brief demonstration for you of a practice that you can do on your own daily. I really strongly encourage everyone I can speak to meditate daily right now. I mean, I always encourage people to meditate daily, I'll be honest. Those of you who've known me for a decade or even a year know that I'm always encouraging everybody to meditate, but the kind of, not just, but particularly the kind of practice we just did, because it's an opening practice. It's a getting out of the way practice. It's a surrendering practice. Letting go, letting be, not knowing, not controlling. It's something we can practice. I encourage you to do it right now because the world is really, can be very, everything we've spoken about here, it's a very challenging time. And half an hour a day of what we just did can have a profoundly deepening effect on you and those around you. Because when we learn how to let go and get out of the way and let something else begin to animate us and move through us and touch everyone we're in contact with, then we're beginning to live a life that is fundamentally a stand for love, for the kind of love I'm speaking about. So that is one part of what it means to practice this. But of course, where the rubber meets the road with love is in daily life. So here are a couple, giving you a practice is tricky. I'm going to give you some precepts and some things to practice. This is what I call awakened life practice. These are daily life practices, living an awakened life, living a life that's awake out in the world. So it's rooted in the getting out of the way. And we can take that and allow that to flow into our lives. And we can explore in our lives what it is to let go of control more to allow. So here's what it is. Take the posture, take the position as you live your life, that you are taking a stand for love, which means you're taking a stand for infinite love, which means you're saying, I believe in love. I am standing for love, which means I want to be someone through whom love can operate freely. So I want to live a life where I'm getting out of the way, which means I'm relinquishing my rigidities, my fixed ideas, my already knowing, my certainties. And I'm living in openness and receptivity to what I don't already know. It means I'm surrendering to the needs of the moment instead of coming into every situation with my agenda and what I think needs to happen and trying to push that and force that. What's the posture of love? I want to serve the greatest good in this moment. I want to be available for what's really needed, because it's different in every situation, every moment, every encounter, what's needed. But I want to be here for what's needed. I might have good ideas. I might be the one with the best idea about what's needed. That doesn't mean I'm pushing my agenda. It means, hey, I really think this is a really good idea. I think this is what's needed. I'm tuning in. This feels like, but I'm open to everything, every other possibility, what other people see that I don't see, other needs being voiced and brought in, other perspectives that might open my mind and my world. So I'm surrendered to what's needed. I'm here for what's needed, and I'm willing to give it and step up for it, no matter what it means for me, even if it's hard, uncomfortable, feels risky, scary, feels like a sacrifice of my needs. Again, only when the greater need transcends your personal need. You understand the difference? Of course. Sometimes you have a personal want, but there's a much greater need. This is a life where we show up for the greater need. A lot of us are being asked to do that right now in this pandemic, right? A lot of people who feel, I'm healthy. I'm not going to get sick. If I do get sick, it won't take me out because I'm young and healthy, whatever. But even if that's true, we're making the sacrifice to say, yeah, but I don't want to be someone who can spread it. I might carry it and spread it to someone else who is vulnerable. So even if I believe I'm not, which of course we're learning, even young, healthy people can get violently ill. But my point is just, that's an example. Yes, I would like to go out and just live my life, but for the greater need, which is, I don't want someone else to die because I just selfishly needed to live my life, needed to do what I want to do. So that's being a stand for love. It's part of it. So the other part is, there are pieces that have to do with relinquishing erroneous ways of looking at love and what it means to live a life of love. So and this is everything we've been speaking about here today. Love is not a feeling. It's not something I need to wait to feel to express. What if you make that your orientation? I don't need to feel love. I'm going to give love. I'm going to express love. And I know I spoke a lot here about how it's not in our power. It's not in our control. It's not something we have and give to another. But it can start there. In other words, again, because what the real question is, what enables love in the way I'm talking about to flow into the world? Part of it's the getting out of the way that we practiced in meditation, and then living out in life, that being out of the way. But another part is positively stepping forth and saying, well, whether I feel love or not right now, I'm going to express it. I can see there's someone who needs my support. I'm going to just fully and freely give my support because I can and they need it. I don't feel particularly loving. I'm going to do it. See, we take steps, we take big steps to stand for love, to express love, to be love. Then love can come through. And if we're open and getting out of the way, we suddenly go, oh, wow, look at all the love that came through me. So much love came through me to that other person, to that situation, because I was out of the way and I was saying yes to love. I was taking a stand for care. I was being willing to care. And you see, a lot of us are afraid to care too much because it feels like if we care too much, it will harm us. It feels like it will overwhelm us if we care too much, or we'll kind of make ourselves vulnerable to being hurt. So we close down and we limit how much we can care and how much care we're willing to dole out. But the infinite love I'm speaking about requires us to tear down, break down those walls, to take the risk to care and love. Even if it means we got hurt or got overwhelmed or it was too much. But again, if we're really getting out of the way, what we find mysteriously is this thing starts to happen. We're just the conduit for it. And the more we let it happen, the more we step up and care and give and live a life of generosity and forget about ourselves in a good way. Meaning forget about our fears and our limitations and our contractions, and be this big yes, this big generous yes to life. The more we find that a mysterious power and presence is starting to show up in the space we made. It shows up again and again. It shows up. It might not be there beforehand. That's the thing with most spiritual capacities. We're waiting for the spiritual capacity to show up and then we'll express it. But the way even enlightened consciousness shows up in life is when we take the presumption that it's there and we act on it and express it and align with it. We live a life aligned with the highest truth we know. We live a life that is an expression of the greatest good we can sense. The most virtuous possibility we can imagine. We stand for it and we risk for it and we express it. And then lo and behold, a super consciousness shows up to actually do it. And we say, where did that come from? That wasn't me. Have you had that experience? A lot of us have had that experience. It wasn't me. Something happened. Something came out of me that wasn't me. Something, showed up that wasn't me. Now that we could say, well, it was the real you, but you don't know that part very well yet. So it felt like it wasn't you. Or we could say it's the infinite and it's not you. It just depends which way you look at it. So the other piece here is to question and challenge and relinquish any limiting beliefs that come up in the process. Because don't we all know about limiting beliefs, right? I'm not personally whole enough yet. I'm not strong enough to do this. I'm not clear. I don't know what to do. I don't have a clear map or a picture. I don't have the capacity. I'm not really that loving of a person. I don't know if I can sense into any of this. Well, I feel like I might get overwhelmed, on and on. We all have our own version, our own story. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not deep enough. All of the other part of the work here is I'm making room, getting out of the way. I'm saying a big yes and taking a stand to express infinite love in the world. And then all the limiting beliefs come up to try to stop that. And they keep coming up day after day. And I keep facing into them, saying, oh, there you are again, limiting belief. I know you, but I'm not going to listen to you because I'm being a stand for love. So that's the work, the ongoing work. And that includes noticing the kind of false perspectives and paradigms and ways of looking at this that keep recurring, like, Love is something that I generate. What have we looked at here? Love is something I create and generate, and I'm the source of. That's kind of false paradigm number one. So, false idea number one. So every time that we have to observe ourselves, that's how I'm relating to it. I'm relating to it like it's mine, and I only have so much. It's the second one we looked at. I'm a vessel, and love's going to fill me up. And once I'm full, completely overflowing, actually, then I'll have some to give, and I'll go out and give it. Once I feel it so powerfully and it's in me, then I can give it. That's erroneous false belief number two about love. So you see, but that'll keep, again, it doesn't come up in those words, but, observe yourself, observe how you're relating to this whole inquiry that I've opened up as you go through your life. And you see, oh, there I'm thinking I'm the source of it. Oh, here I'm thinking I'm the vessel who's going to fill up with it. And if once I feel it, then I can give it. Okay, no. See, just learning to kind of identify and renounce or reject false views, what the Buddhists would call wrong view. We want right view. I'm trying to share some right view tonight about love so that we can see this is how it works. You heard me say, no, that's not how it works. This is how it works. That's not how it works. This is how it works. So keeping our orientation aligned with the way it really works, aligned with the science of this. There's the Indian word dharma. The dharma means like the science of how enlightenment works. In this case, this is the science of love. That's what I'm talking about here. This the methodology, the way it actually operates. So we reject these false paradigms. We keep returning to what, again, you can try this for yourself. You have to believe I'm here handing you the tablets, telling you the truth. But I hope that you can see this in your own experience, even your experience up until now. And if so, then you can say, oh, right. The real paradigm is it's not something I can know beforehand. It's not something I get to feel beforehand. Doesn't come from me. I'm not just a vessel filling up and feeling and then giving out. The real paradigm is I'm getting out of the way. I'm a conduit through which it can flow. And only then will I really even feel it, when it's flowing through, out to someone else, to life, to others. It's a very simple formula, but very subtle. So much to this. I've really just opened up an inquiry that I want to invite all of us to participate in as you go through your life. I hope there's something helpful here for you. And, this is a moment when so many people need our support, when the world needs our love, perhaps more than it ever has. And we also need to find a way to love that doesn't burn us out. That's real. So to bring it all back to what I said at the beginning, the reason I'm sharing this now is because I know a lot of us want to find a way to help and give without burning ourselves out, without tapping into already tapped out resources and reserves within. It's that, oh man, how do I help when I'm already my own life's kind of chaotic and hard. I'm really trying to provide a way to do that because the world needs us to. The world can't wait for us all to have our act together and have everything all working before we can give something else. We need to be able to somehow do both. And this is the only way I know. That's what welled up in me yesterday morning and made me decide I wanted to put this together tonight, because it's really the only way I know to do that. And it works. It works miraculously. So I invite you to give it all a try. And this workshop will, once this is all, I'm going to open this up for questions in a couple minutes and take as many as I can in the time. I know we're over time, but I'll hang around and keep taking questions for a while. But I just want to say, after that's all done, this workshop will stay up here on Facebook, and the recording of it will be here to watch again if you want to watch part of it or scroll back or find it. And I'll particularly if you want to share it with someone, please do. You can email them the link. You can use the sharing thing on Facebook to spread the love around. Share the love, spread it around. Invite other people to check it out. And yeah. And I want to invite you all now to also share a comment about what's been powerful about this workshop tonight. What's opened up for you or deepened? What's your takeaway? Please take a moment to write it in the comment roll. And including those of you watching afterward, I'll keep looking at the comments. It was quite an experience this last week since Sunday, having thousands of comments to kind of digest and take in. It's very moving for me as a teacher to receive so much back in the form of comments. So if you're feeling any love, wanting to flow it back toward me, that's the best way, is just share something there so I'll read through them all after it's done. So there's just one last thing I want to say before I shift over to taking some questions from you, is just that after Sunday's event, we had a lot of people write to us asking kind of like, okay, that was a great introduction to this, but is there some way I can like study all this more or learn more? And, my basic inclination right now is to just give as much as I can. And that's what I've been doing. But I also do want to let those of you know, if you're interested in studying with me and exploring some of my programs, there's one course in particular. It's really my flagship course called Integral Enlightenment, Awakening to an Evolutionary Relationship to Life. And it goes deeper into what we spoke about here and a lot of other elements of this holistic enlightened life, awakened life that I'm pointing to. And because I know a lot of us are financially strapped right now and our team is looking for ways to be of help, they want to give everyone who attends this a $200 tuition discount on that course. And there's a coupon code that they've created for you. It's Evolve 200. Evolve 200, because it's for $200 off. So if you can jot that down and after the event, not now, but later on, if you're kind of interested, something got sparked here you want to check out, just go to integralenlightenmentcourse.com. That's integralenlightenmentcourse.com, and you can read about the course. You can use that code on the checkout, and hopefully the discounted tuition makes it possible for a lot of you. And obviously this is, I mentioned one way to give back to me is through the comments. The way to give back to my team is to help us all, stay in a vital, business and keep the money flowing in for the 30 people who support these programs and get a paycheck every couple of weeks from it. So this is another way to support that too. If any of you are feeling like you want to donate, we don't have a donation button, but you're welcome to enroll, and you'll get hopefully a tremendous amount from that for yourself too. So yeah, I won't talk about that anymore. All right, now what I want to do is hear from you. What are your questions? So let's see. It's Johanna, I think, Wexler. Said, what do you suggest to us caretakers? I'm an emergency medical mental health worker, and I'm working 12 to 17-hour days during COVID-19. So what do you suggest for us to receive and awaken to infinite love or be an enlightened conduit? Well, Johanna, first, bless you and bless everyone who's giving their lives and working long hours to support and help others. I can only imagine the kind of stuff that's coming your way right now. The mental health crisis that is on the heels of all this is something that's only spoken about a little bit, but we know it's huge. In many ways, that's why I'm here, to support all of our mental health and our spiritual health with these. So I get it, and I'm very tuned into that. And I would encourage you to, I guess in addition to everything I shared here, the piece I would say to you is working those long hours. I think you have a particular profound opportunity to apply the piece I've been talking about, because see, I can only guess that in a situation like that where you're helping people so consistently so many hours in a row, that I'm sure you have your own way you found to not get burned out and exhausted. But and it might dovetail with what we're talking about here, but I want to invite you to consider that this might be another way, that there might be a way for you to run your spiritual experiments during the day. So you're with a client, you're with one client and you're kind of approaching it in the way you normally do, and with the capacities and the reserves that you normally bring. I'm sure you've got a way you go through your day that you orient. So, and then I want to invite you, maybe during a few sessions, a part of your day, experiment with some of the orientations that I invited us into here. Experiment. We'll say, well, what if I go into this conversation with this difficult, patient that's having a really hard time? What if I go into it letting go of everything I think I know, letting go of control, getting myself out of the way, letting go of my limiting beliefs, and I just go into it with an intention to be available for something else to come through me that I don't even know what it is. Because honestly, situations where someone directly needs our help like that, we have to be really present and give. Those can be some of the most powerful places to experience what I'm talking about. I hear this from people in helping professions like yours, where they say, something happened in that session where I applied these principles. Because obviously I work with a lot of helping professionals. They're people who help for a living are drawn to this kind of work. So people will sometimes come back to me and they'll say, I something happened in that session where I applied this. I just opened up, emptied out, let go of control and let go of knowing. And I was just there, pure presence. So that's a survival skill I didn't teach tonight, but the ability to be pure presence. I was just there, and words were coming out of my mouth. I don't know where they were coming from. Energy was coming out of me. The person even commented that they could feel I was different than the last session I was with them. They said they just felt some energy transmission. They felt uplifted and they had insights they hadn't had into their situation. And none of it came from me. I didn't do any of it. And then they'll say to me, and I actually felt more energized after the session, not less. So why is that? It's exactly what we've been talking about. Why would you feel more energized having just given somebody a lot of love and energy and presence? Because it wasn't you that did it. It didn't come from, you didn't generate it. It didn't come from you. So it came through you and you got to experience it. You got to experience the energetic upliftment by getting out of the way. So my hope is that you might, and any other helping professional who's listening, who's watching this, tuning into this, can experiment with that orientation and see if you have that experience. Because if you do, you might start to say, I'm going to spend my whole day this way. I'm just going to empty out, open up, and trust that there's a wisdom and a love that's greater than me that will show up in the space I make. In the space I make for it, it will show up. Lo and behold, you might end your day more energized than you started, even though it seemed like, from the outside, it looked like you were just giving, and you must be exhausted. Someone say to you, oh, you must be exhausted. And you say, no, I'm not. I'm actually on fire. I'm alive. Thanks, Johanna. It's great. Carmen says, how does the love you're talking about compare to what we ordinarily refer to as love, such as pleasure, feeling good, getting along with others, a kiss from a child? So, Carmen, there's a lot of things a lot of ways we could tackle that, but I think the way I want to speak to it that's in keeping with what we're exploring here, it would be to simply say that most, if not all of those, are just little tiny sparks. They're little tiny flickers of a fire that is burning hotter than the sun in a spiritual sense. So all the little, let's just say they're all little manifestations of love. They're little sparks from a fire. And what I'm inviting us to do is jump into the fire. And burn up anything that's not fire itself. It's only safe to jump into a fire if you are fire yourself. And I'm saying we are, all of us. That's our nature. That's our essence. Thank you. Cindy says, I feel this love, especially in meditation. I find it a little more challenging in everyday living. Yeah, it is a little more challenging in everyday living. Absolutely. You can see why, because in meditation, we have this, and this is one of the reasons I'm such an intense advocate for meditation, particularly the kind of meditation that we explored here briefly, is that meditation is like it's this contained, safe kind of laboratory environment where we can create perfect conditions for spiritual practice and awakening. In meditation, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to be anywhere. You don't have to, nothing's required from you. You can completely let go of the world. You can let go of your ego. You can let go of your mind. You can let go of control. You can allow yourself to sink into an infinitely deep part of yourself where you might completely be disoriented and lose all your normal reference points and frameworks. But it's okay because you're just sitting there. There's no harm to that. There's only good can come of it. Well, yeah, really, mainly. I have to be careful. I suppose there was a guy who, literally a spiritual teacher who was meditating in nature, and a boulder broke loose from the hill and rolled down and flattened him. True story, literally. So whenever I try to tell people meditation's totally safe, that story always comes into my mind. I say, well, you never know. But fundamentally, what's amazing about meditation is that it is an opportunity like no other to dive into the depths. And so it's natural that it would be a place that you would have this, start to experience this flowing. So my hope is that in your life, with some of the tools I gave you here and the perspectives, the paradigm shifts, the challenging the limiting beliefs, the kind of, I want to say to everyone, I know I covered a lot here, and a lot of it was very sort of even poetic and evocative, probably. This was totally extemporaneous. I just had a very rough outline, but I know a lot of it was kind of transmissive, evocative, and not so point by point. But at the end, I tried to really bring it all and summarize it. So if you find yourself leaving here going, wow, that was kind of powerful, but I don't know what he said, you can go back and even listen to that last 10 minutes of the talk where I kind of tried to summarize it all again. And hopefully you'll be able to go, oh yeah, right. Because there is a science to it. There's a formula to it, and you can practice it. And that will show up in your life. Faith says, thank you. I've been reaching out to my friends and family and letting them know how much they're loved, reminding us all that no matter what, we have love. See, that's a gesture of love. There are so many gestures of love. I want to give us all a little homework assignment, if you don't mind. After this workshop, sit down and kind of go, okay, what are some things that would be really out of the box for me to express love, to be a yes to love? Just, because there's not a right, there's not a 10 commandments to this. There's not I just said there's a formula. Obviously, I kind of shared a science of it in consciousness, but in terms of all the millions of ways each of us can practice this and do this and express this, there's no list. But I want to encourage you to just be creative right now while it's all kind of opened up and loosened up maybe in your consciousness. Say, whoa, I'm gonna experiment with this. And like Faith just said, I'm just gonna let everybody know how much I love them. You might find in doing it, you're like, oh wow, I'm starting to experience love. Why are you experiencing it? Because you're giving it. And you start to feel, you leave all those interactions feeling uplifted and filled with love. Not because anybody gave you anything, not because something filled you up, but because you were giving it. So, I know, because I spoke about this in a very kind of absolute, ultimate, sublime way, which is part of what I do. Because I want to point at, tether us to the ultimate possibility. That's part of my job as a teacher of awakenings, to anchor you to the highest possibility so that you can start to, climb that rope to it. But, I just want to invite you to play with this, make this an experiment and see, because you'll start to feel it. You just be like, wow, I'm just going to go out and, again, right now we're not really encountering a lot of strangers, or if maybe you're taking walks, people are like across the street. But what if you just give some love to everybody who passes 6 feet away from you when you're out? See what happens. Notice that, and be a scientist of consciousness. Notice what it does in your experience. It might be very transformational. And because what I really hope, what I hope more than anything, is that out of this workshop, you've got some tools, perspectives, practices to start experimenting with, living with meeting this challenge with an open heart, living a life of limitless love. And you just really experiment into it, explore it, play with it, be creative with it. Because my hope is that in doing so, everyone here will have a taste of the simplicity of what I'm talking about. Because it's even though it's very deep and profound, it's very simple. And it's life-changing for you and everyone else. That's the beautiful part about love. It's life-changing for you, but only when it's also life-changing for others. When it's coming through you to others, then it's transforming you. And thank you again for coming. It's a delight to be with all of you. I hope to connect with you again soon in some other context. And I just hope that this has elevated you, and that it inspired you to go out and give it to the world. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Bye.